Recent,
About the recent large case you did for an agri client.
that recent big case for an agri client was a major farming client based about 3.5 hours away from where I operate. And the case came about, interestingly, was driven by our obligatory annual risk review, which I certainly don't like doing that often. And I think most planners I talk to don't really enjoy doing risk reviews. But the value that came out of this one, which I think is a good learning curve for us all, is that the risk review showed me that the level of cover that he had at the time, which I wrote 3 years ago, and it all went through term life as superannuation because that's how the accountant wanted it structured, and the client agreed to structure it that way for tax effectiveness of premium. Because of the recent reduction in the contributions cap to 25,000, his premium was now increasing to 37 based on his current program, and that was well within the previous 50,000 limit, so it wasn't a concern for a couple of years. But because of the contribution cap being exceeded, I jumped on that straight away to work with the accountant to see how we could restructure his current cover. And the initial suggestion from me was let's reduce the cover in the term super policy back down to cap it out at $25,000 premium, and the balance of the cover through a different policy ownership structure, but at the same time working with Maurice Foster, the commercial banker. Let's talk about increasing that level based on his level of debt, because 3 years ago he was comfortable with the level of cover, but because his operation and I know what his future plans are looking like, I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about increasing the cover anyway, in addition to reviewing through the risk trail obligation, restructuring the cover within the contribution caps, but increasing the now non-super policy. And that resulted in the big case being written, which was a really large one outside super, which has then resulted in a real value adding to the business across the books, not just myself, more so the banker, as well as the banker, and also the customer being covered for a lot higher level than he had before. So the lessons out of that exercise was not just transaction driven around lending levels, but was driven initially by the need to review the risk trail, because it was a large case, receiving a large annual risk trail requiring risk review, and that's how the new sale developed from that review. But along the way, as I said repeatedly, with the accountant in the picture from day one, so he was involved with, and that assisted the customer as well, because a lot of business clients will ask their accountant, what do you think about this? So I positioned the accountant early in the piece so that he is involved. Psychologically, I get them to even take ownership of the transaction, so they think that's their idea, and they can then promote it to the customer and endorsing what I'm suggesting, and that works very, very well.